Hi, Chris. Good to see you. Have a seat.
Hello. Woo! How'd you like the movie? That's otherwise known as the Hey Victor movie.
Have a seat, please. There was a documentary at TIFF this year, the Toronto Film Festival, called Hey Victor, starring. Right, I'm forgetting who's in it actually, but
I think it was called it was called Hey Victor.
Yes.
But it wasn't a documentary. I think it was a mockumentary.
A mockumentary, yeah.
It was a mockumentary.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the highest form of
flattery.
Flattery.
For sure.
I've heard.
Well, I would love to dive into a couple of questions, but before we do, I know there are some folks present here who worked on the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I miss anybody, please call out. Let me know that you're here. But our composer, B.C. Smith, is here. Is that right? Where is he? There he is. Stand up. Yay! And I worked with B.C. just about 2 weeks ago on something, so we still work together. But you know, incredible the just as I heard it here tonight, the subtleties that you hear every time are just kind of incredible. And we were all so much younger then. It looks like you have more hair now, but and then I'd like to acknowledge Amy Israel from the company Miramax at the time. And there's Amy. There she is. Amy's in the house. And then I'd like to acknowledge my co-producer and screenwriter Sherman Alexie, the great. Without Sherman's stories and his incredible talents, this movie wouldn't exist. And I read his short stories in '94 when I was a film school student, and they ignited me in a way that I don't know if anything has since. But I just I read this and I said, that's what I want to do. And so thank you to Sherman for his talent and the stories and sharing what he did on screen in the movie.
And so we spoke a little bit beforehand, just in preparing for what we wanted to talk about tonight. And you came to these stories, but how did you come to his book and to these stories and to this story specifically?
Well, I have to give some credit to teachers, because I was a graduate film school student at NYU in 1992, and in '94 a professor came to me and said, you have to read this, and handed me Sherman's book. And thankfully it was an anthology, because I didn't read the big ones at the time. But this short story was about 11 pages, and it was called This Is What It Means to Say Phoenix, Arizona. And way back then, it was a lot simpler, before the internet and before cell phones and all this stuff. And I asked somebody that I knew, hey, do you know this author? It might have been the same professor. She goes, no, but I know somebody who does. And lo and behold, somebody got me his number, and he lived in Seattle, and I was in New York, and I grabbed the old, dial-up, waited for
it was a rotary phone?
Waited for the, rotary to go back. And I think his wife, Diane, picked up, said, who is this? I said, I'm a film school student. I want to talk to Sherman. And she was kind enough to say, hold on a second. He's just getting out of the shower. True story. And he picked up the phone. And we started talking. And that's how it all started back in '94. Simpler times.
Much simpler. So 30 years ago? I could do math. 30 years ago. And so now watching this today, 25 years later, there are so many now familiar faces.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we have Adam Beach, Tattoo Cardinal,
Yeah.
Gary Farmer. But there were also some discoveries when you were casting this film, and some people in their first or second feature. So talk a little bit about casting this film and how you made those decisions of how to flesh out these characters on screen.
Well, I think the real one was discovery was Thomas Builds the Fire. Right? I mean, Evan had worked on a short film that I did, and Irene, that was Renee Haynes, who cast Killers of the Flower Moon. Way back then, 25 years ago, she said, "You should see this guy." And I said, "Well, that'd be great." And he came out, and I did a short film with him, and he became Thomas. And he had this little prosthetic tooth that he'd put on. And he said, "Can I wear this?" And I said, "Yeah." Did you see his tooth was a little crooked?
Yeah.
And he said it made me feel like the right nerd, the right Indian nerd. We said, "Yeah, that's great." And we ended up hiring him for Smoke Signals. And the interesting thing about him was I said, "You know, what are you doing this whole time?" Because he was playing this incredible goodness. And as you see him and his grandmother at the table, they just have this energy and this connection. And I said, "You know, what are you doing?" And in real life, he shared with me that he was playing his own grandmother. I said, "Whoa." And it's because of the love that he had for his grandmother. And as this male character he was playing, he was embodying his grandmother, you know, his beloved grandmother. And I always thought that was incredible. But he was the real discovery. And then when I see things like Adam Beach in this, I recognize now that, you know, Adam was so great in it. You know, when he does that scene in the bus and he says, "This ain't Dances with Salmon, you know." You know, he just had these great things that he knew. He'd been in Squanto before that.